Manever I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there, I see them yopo.
In all the happenings, enough of the music. In all the happenings, Mr. President, actually said, or said that one who been and son, what then the whole film or mine Ghana saying to no swaba man me Ghana mampeni. Moi and ra mudi machi e wo dwumadi so mene Kwame Kwache yedi nkomo bi ma me ka kire Kwame say there is a very big difference between President John Dramani Mahama and some other presidents that we have seen, especially in the last 8 years. Because now Kwame Kwache is as President Mahama lining up the major ministers, technical ministers. It be a question. Na efa energy huwa na jonji na pose mini. Yebisa question na efa galamsey huwa na ama kofi bu asemini. Yebisa question na efa humasua huwa Haruna Idris semini. Yebisa question na efa amanoni nsem huwa Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa esemini. Yebisa question na eda emra na Kwame susu se eho na lawyer ayine enso ayiniti eti no a yebisa question say bia e fata gold board hui na ebia anka asami jemfia be ya no ana me ka kire Kwame say there is a very big difference between John Dramani Mahama ono no oye bookworm. He may not know all. In fact, no one man can claim expertise of knowledge. No one man. Yasi nyansa nim dia hui. Ete se onyine dia. Ni patini bia ni one in some yenu betimi ehia. And I'm not here to say that John Dramani Mahama is the end of wisdom. Certainly, obe lucky bibi. But it is obvious that the president of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, has decided that he will always make us proud. And look, if I was not a Ghanaian yesterday, and I'm a Tiffy and a meteor, President John Dramani Mahama, not only in his articulation of Ochre and Niema Waye, but all answer questions from eminent journalists in this country. And Kameka say, minyaya kapapeya mi mampeni. But I'm so proud, ladies and gentlemen, that not only am I a journalist under his watch, I'm a citizen of the land. And he is my president. So firstly, Omampeni, congratulations. And Ra, what's the presidency in him? And Ra, what's the Waman Ghana in him? And Ra, what's in Central in him? Because, and Yama Yabisa, you know, were myriad, bebre, different sectors of Ghana's economy, of Ghana's political landscape. And yet, Waman Penny John Dramani Mahama Trese, what they be biase from economy A to economic Z, from politics A to politics Z. It was obvious. It was obvious. In fact, there were certain questions, for instance, concerning Crawford, US4, yes, one be deported one. There are a lot of journalists in Ghana. They bring him. But President created me Chiremu. Actually, the nationals of those people. And why under the bracket of ECOWAS in the account? Ghana, Beye, Ejinapen, and Sana, they'll be repatriated back to their nations. That is the kind of a president you and we have. Today be a mitrasia. I am a catcher that was that. Meet Nana Otudaku. Semisha president. Semisha president is neither here nor there. Sir President Befremi. Sir President in Fremi is neither here nor there. Nemom say you betimi asha president ding. Ya tunifo pa. Ya shanem kran. Na wadi enyema pasisi akwem na mfaso deni bia kame ne wono de. Very, very important to us. Eti enu yenia idikai. I'm here firstly to commend the president on that. Secondly, memo Ghana in some trouble for abaso. Mube break se sabi mpanyufo anim utirimu abobil questions bi wo ha mubisa ya ehu hia Ghana ne nkankro ne nchechire memo ba akudi nya obi na me nkasa obi question ho mfaso osin obi dabi ani ntimi nka nkyira me say ne ho mfaso osin nan na se da nan beka se ne nan ye ne ya no ba bi ani opese wani ko hunu no obaye de aduru ho eti questions bi a mubisa ibi ehu hia but enan komo no mi twa kwakohwe enkrofo bi mu a wana dan who naysayers, detractors of John Dramani Mahama. Nyabe bi enyofe. Awko sachira koma enyenefe. And one of those guys, Manasseh Azuri. Manasseh Azuri. I'll come to him. One of those guys, Manasseh Azuri. I'll come to him. You see, no credit said. Platform were too big to discussing. I'll not pretend at all. So I'm here to discuss it. I'm pretending. But Utien Koma Manasseh Azuri Rezia, or person what me to da say. John Dramani Mahama is a failure when it comes to the fight of galamsey. Or person what yana to da me catch and say what bong. It is not about profile throne and treasure Manasseh Azuri. Massa, there are a lot of journalism and the masquerade ye. Journalism undercover. Biaye. What do you say? Oh, Dogana, see what to da nam chiro. Move a bremo de mafu nam. Yes, and I'll come there. Because and Kamia says some people, one they are some trim thinking say Ghanaian journalism is a reserve for certain people in this country in kurasise money. And found in here aban kumbi baye as long as only aban nani nsiano aban nanye. And one of them Manasseh Azuri. Sometimes he pretends around the president. And Mr. President would have been blamed. Krofua ekuma mu okurum ha some benya opportunity po akwako share President John Dramani Mahama ebe take home 1 million years and yet they are the journalists fighting for John Dramani Mahama but hypocrites like Manasseh Azuri opa manika so person John Dramani Mahama the next day not in it a picture people who rise up in the defense of John Dramani Mahama. Opa bisa Kwame Kwache said that no call John Dramani Mahama. And yet people like Kwame Kwache mu no bet my in making sure that the president will succeed. But people who ill criticize, your criticism is constructive. I just said Manasseh Azuri catch them say galamsey as a nontiase. And your course school in your subject yard. Manasseh Azuri were very good in writing, but when it comes to the import of writing, won't you say, well, try subject, but when he got to galamsey subject, or fairly put all, and that is why he showcased it. Kwame, Mr. President, can never be great. Issues regarding rent, issues regarding Enyema, why economic one. Ubenya ye in a short possible space of time. Or Kanyama regarding gold board, Sikapudua Edeba, to the extent say Honorable Sami Jemfia Daruma and gold refinery and check ye go dan ke tu no amono aye de kwama no ne ema ye mfa so bebre no ye na ye de be fagem ne yetimi de aye nsomade yetimi de aye chains na Ghana nya so mfa so. There were a lot of things, plethora of them, from sanitation to roads to a lot of places. It's na me say journalists for no bisa very, very important questions. But largely, Ojan Komono Akosunwa, Esan Kwa, ne etwa ababesi mining or illegal mining. Yeah? Sami Otuda Kometrana Moka say, Aban way, and 100% in the fight against illegal mining. Nama bodam. Nami yarefo. Nami niminyansa. I can never. Minti kunya Bruce Wayne can't say John Dramani Mahama Mobile, they've been able to win the fight against galamsey Adam Yariada. It is obvious they have not been able to win. However, it is also correct that they have made every attempt to fight this nonsense. So before you criticize John Dramani Mahama or Ama Kofi Bua, comment kakrana wana yeno, then criticize baby about the sorry I'm casting. Hey, see journalism never for true. Journalism ye nyansa ye catcher of mine. Kwame. Ah, there be a Miss BBC presenter ben. Sure. No, my family gramenko. Omuntimintua. You see, Kwame, see, in the first place, Adia Bakwa, Kwame, me mekani say, mene aban we nyadwene. And I don't know how well to explain. Me a mini pa ama Kofi Bua akra explain ya mentiaze. The declaration of state of emergency in galamsey areas. Kwame, I don't know how President Mahama will convince me. Mentiaze. Because when NDC was in opposition, it was one of the songs they were singing around. Said Nanato Dankwa Kufano in Galamsey areas and declare a state of emergency. Today, you are in power. Oh, become profile me. Afena Munim say you was semantics, ni phonetics in English. Afena, Ubaba Church, them say, and you're possible, say, you better declare state of emergency. Now, what position now? Who catch the Kufa to declare state of emergency? No, not day, no munina so. Please, we should not be titia home near Sresre. We should stop tackling ourselves and laugh. If indeed we are serious in this fight against galamsey, otherwise we are all bunch of jokers. So when Senia galamsey nipa Anka will be more serious with that approach. And nobody Anka may generally say the likes of Manasseh Zudimobeye. But to call the president a failure, to call the attempt fights of galamsey a failure, no, then it means that such people and Kamiako said they don't analyze things constructively. And Kamiako said, more penny people fire no matter. I did say data, said some George Adaro Maswati. To the Kotu Facebook now, Anya, Obenya 1 or 2 stages a review, a Bianca Ghana web buffet. So, in as much as Kwame, I think that you're commending government in some of the things that almost here, and I'll come there. No? Let's also point out to government here, governments can never be fully right when it comes to the fight against galamsey. Be anyone may hear more to Mahama Bemu, since send you bet me a galamsey. Be anyone. Yeah, maybe you come me, you're me an inch. If I tell you people who call us, said they are ready to give us cars, they are ready to give us undisclosed amount of money. In some of the calls, Obi Frank Catcher say, they will add car. Yet Jenny say, yes, free Ama Kofi Bua. You see, Ama Kofi Bua, Obi and in the chill. Waya de pa, 80 year Kabi Buano, or Kamabush now. Ama Kofi Boy is not my friend. Call him. But I just realized that as a minister in charge of lands and natural resources, and for once, your new minister be a wire crowd of person who galamsey, and that is why people like us, ye kasa na and Kamiako say what the cause of Ama Kofi Boy. But me on them a goodie for. There are people who called and say, yes, look, I didn't want to say this on radio, but can't say yes, send free machina, you may do machi. Do you know why? Because yent me ultimate mommy $1 million po mami ko sensu. Adam yariada. Yesu Christo mpo no huma bra na nanom bebisa me. In this fight against galamsey, we are all serious about it. So the issue with declaration of state of emergency, meaning how difficult is it for this government? And answer, baby, you too sa galamsey na you declare state of emergency na behano. And this is for concessions or Hana. Because that is the only conviction. Ubet me akatam say enunti yen declare. Ebia na ndis from penny for bi our concession areas bi enti declare be affect them. And yes idea why how is it difficult? In the first place also person ko galamsey. Now to us here. And you say declare state of emergency one kind of opposition what ba afa who say explain it different. And this is from Basu Sosania, my wisdom, one and be good pattern. Moncano cranch red down. Sano crabbing and I'm person Manasseh Zurimuka. Can we yansam? Cano cranch red down for. O to the Acobetanum can LI 2462. And ne Honorable Ama Kofi Boy. Early crusade, they say that very provision should be repealed. Time and this war position. Catch the Ghana for say that very law and Kufa the year in Yan repeal it. Then NDC came to power. Yan quote your somo be amended. I know to the Acobetrans, hey, the fact is that me support to me pemasem, me to Obama John Dramani Mahama. Not 2028 to cry one here, Messia to Abamu, and Chesamunism. That law must be revoked because Ghana is more important than any political party in history. And then Yankopon Chadum. Minister na gine ye adwuma te say Ama Kofi Boy actually say he believed that law should be repealed. Fantastic minister. Some of these things somewhere you think say be ebe kan no atomo ana. Je kan no ntomo ho. The point Kwame me making say enema bi wo ho no mu a ye betimi de ako. Hwe Owura Manasseh Azure. Naimus and President Bosso Enra, National Anti-Illegal Mining Operation Secretariat. The nationalized group, they are in charge. So I'm going to galamsey. And before I forget, maybe Yanka San found Monchere Kenobua, I will lead in Naimus. Naimus should be in charge, but you should replicate your wings. Then I'm a battery. One Naimus, Mutiminko. One Naimus, to say bia, Naimus near king. Eti yabachi mosinwa. The next day, no, maybe a question, kuma bremai. The next day, maybe a coach for praso. Uba osino galamsey for be free for praso so mobile. So yes, let's use the same Naimus, but young consider galamsey areas. Now young replicate the effort of Naimus. It is a Naimus yetena. This time, let's make it 100. Not every galamsey region be a 10. Led by the same Kenobua under the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources. Maybe I say, then we are fighting. Because it was almost mutia says, any paboni for no a person to galamsey. Nyayanka Minister of Lands and Freehold. Ma o Kenobua kore you afro no. There are plenty. It was almost money down. It was almost money down. And then some you bet to be on radio so. But then some you making one tea see our bedroom. It was almost money down. Na nipa won ne nante no kwame. Was saying free with you. Huh? Me bube. So only obi nam. Na send free with ya. Unhu da. Eti debia ordinary no fa be srachro. But ni tirimu de o send free with ya che. And here, na people who are ready to die for their motherland, akwa sign every papa nechi. And now when the inactiveness of 9 months and their leadership. And the young country and for say, we agree. Sir Osha the 9 months operations sir. We agree. Sir Osha the guard initiative by Blue Water Guard initiatives we agree. Send water pumps by 900. Yaji Ayadiama Ministry of Agric, according to President. I done me who Honorable Eric Opokua or no so HMA Kuyafo. Yeah, but he took custody of it. We agree. Say several champagne so much no yashino because I don't know why okwebiaso. We agree. Say excavators don't do our magie and then it's going to the military installations ahodo. So the government is making every effort. So Baku galamsey. I know the enokre. I don't know me pese the lives of Manasseh zurimu. Because 8 years here, near Timu na Manasseh zurimu kroma. Yehu kwanya na nakufa mo fa so ko galamsey. From Pom Boate report that bang na mo Manasseh mo traka taba say we should make sure say they are prosecuted. At this opportunity be a ma, then you jump into popularity. We will not allow you. This time is Munkab. Now again, me moving my attention and call. Maybe I'll speak to 3 areas. Time in here. Me moving my attention and call this plea bargain thing. As a president, and me kasa me kwa me kobisa president. And yema miensa. How far with PDS? See a kind. How far with Ora? And then we are no because no we are there. Why me na me kwenye because of Bibinti. But and we are no so koi. Mr. President, Ebwebwa and some on this plea bargain thing. And an issue, you know. Who said you better marry and also mine. You better make decide, say, okay, what the park need the yanka $1 million. Yan fanning kotum. Nemo yanka who said Nicotumwa was 7 sentence in this canashi. Only park win so quack prison. One year koto biano, yan year koto bianiamano. Yan year koto swamanano. Baby or that yan year hunka. Eti ebimusu susu say. Any other thing a plea bargain in Yajuma. Eti any may $1 million. But no matter catcher say, my crowd will say metria. Eti munjum $1 million. Ebimusu say, and when your President Muhammad decision. Ebimu susu say you just have $1 million na ebabwa o man no enkankro say $1 million ne be hye no nipa akona kwakodem anokwasa no say utie nia enhyechemu mampanin e de baaye no de a anka ne kwa so ado so me ne nya adwene mi otu da komene mampanin nya adwene and me pese me kai me mampanin say we galamsey ni say microphone free on moi. The major reason why we voted him into power is on the basis of accountability. So people will suffer the pains of the laws in our prisons. Plea bargain, yeah, but a secondary matter. Because I know me try hanum kaze. So we are $10 million. Now we see only pakunisa fed your betria. In the name of plea bargain, eti mujis kani we are no afan wa kwedi dia. Me nso me ko wia obi board dia. Me ka tira judge ni say me sra no. My ready say me de board dia mema no. Me na ya wusu afo me ka board dia no foforo nam de abesha nan. Eno so ye plea bargain. Saban timi dia na se dia, e dem so me de ne ntiase. some talks cannot always favor the political class to the detriment of the ordinary people. They say the ordinary Ghanaian kocha bordia. Yes, we call you bordia. You didn't go 10 years. What the parkour say, Mr. Bordia, na be trying to person me plea bargain. Oba na say me kocha bordia for frabe abesa nan. Cemetery. Munya mamenkwa. Eno de munyai. Na politician ko wia $10 million was my ready cemetery. No magisicano, no magino. Hey, what kind of armed robbery system are we encouraging in our country? Okay, into kwachi armed robber. What's a Mesramo? Sikana me ko wia no 500,000 cedis pe. Me plea bargain. Plea bargain here then. Sikana me wia no. Me ko wia we bia Bank of Ghana. Ana sikano me ko wia o GBC. It impact 500,000 no. My ready cemetery amoma me fa me honkodi. Sane emra. If this is what plea bargain is about, Mr. President, it will be our joy that these people will rather suffer in hell of prisons than we taking that money from them. Obit is like for your taba also be plea bargain to Metias. Everybody say, can for your tati assess my bogana chrono. Eti, me can for your ta, my head ready said me PS can mummy from Hunkodi. Hey, John, Kroma, Mr. President, no way. No way. That's your explanations. Now let's listen to my president. Let's listen to my president. For president, you need 2 money.
Imports, but never brought those imports. We want to know what happened, and if there was wrongdoing to sanction whoever it is. While we work to stabilize our economy and improve the value of our currency, we must protect that currency, because a strong CD is good for all of us. But when that happens, some people try to take advantage of it, and I think that we should all condemn anything like that. FR investigations now with regards to oral. Senya Okayano, MPP address almost the Shishebi by IMRA se abandi wudi FR case bi ho se ebia wafesika na bibia o akwenya obetimi aka se yo ene aban case na mode kwedu amode bomeno me sande sika na se agudie bia na se bibia mode bomi kwedu no me sande aba se ne be ya bomfa me nkoto how do they call imprisonment efiase bomfa me nkoto efiase enti yemra edaho enti obi a yabo no kwedu bia ewo tumi se obeka se you ene yentwa so na memfa se imra na yenjai sa eyuno enti eno enye aban ena ebeka eye nipa yede na kugina court and so se oka se o munjai asem no mu na memfa se imra na se agudie bia me fa ye me famra na se japade bia me fa ye me famra na se bibi aban wa kwenya se ebeka se de bi yenje na yebeto aso any case no enti ejina case no ene ni anipa ne ye enti still aban wo tumi say even though wako emra na se aka say me pese me san ede bibi bema aban na aban eja case no mu aban betimi aka say de bi yempe yenje enti eno a case by case say o sheda ede adwembone ewia yesika a echese eso a yegyina echese I don't know how to explain. I just say abo aban anase oman car you to me say ebeka say yempe nia wode ba no na yede obekwa akoto efiase ba ni be reason ka say na wode nkoto efiase wa na obeto aduane ama no wa na obehwe no oyare a wode no beko hospital enti say we wia sika na okase o sande o sika be mawa And who on for so say ye beji sika chen say ye di nipa no beko efiase nti ye no de attorney general and a behwe no akan near here. With regards to trade tariffs and China, zero tariffs, it's an incentive for us to export into the Chinese market.
It's you shape that focus of the so-called plea bargain. And Mr. President, Papa, don't be deceived. MPP themselves, into them this law nearby. Because time we campaign even before 2020 elections. Nyana mo kan say sika MPP awiano. Mo ba mo make sure say mo bechi matum. And you think say omo fa kwan bi so nyane mfiri mo nsam ana. It quickly they decided say let's bring a certain law in front plea bargain. You nim see e be wieska. Na mo because of that law, mo de yakotuma yes okay I ready see betua. Na mo jawom. Meanwhile Mr. President, so we are $10 million $10 million no. Obedi kind at the quarter treasure bill. Treasure bill no 1 year per annum 27%. It kwame, would they say $1 million crampa? It means say $270,000 ever become at the end of the year. Can you imagine? So yes, can or the two a year treasure bill on for 5 years. $270,000 times 5. And no quite about to move. Because you are going to take only the principal of $1 million. No, what's your enough and work with the according to $270,000 times 5. What kind of plea bargain is that? What kind of plea bargain is that? So, Mr. President, don't be deceived. One share that the same money by because some ya cron for, some be yeska, some ba, my ready some betu matum. They don't want to go to jail. It won't the plea bargain by. It we are somebody who kotum or say you see can a cross what comes one way, and you are falling for this kind of law. That is why we gave you supreme majority. That is why we have made you a supreme leader, Mr. President. That is why you have the highest stake of majority in Parliament. Samranya, revise the law. We have given you full authority, but we don't say. Say because MPP decide money by until we follow. And yes, sir, Mama Mia gonna say NDC politicians, ni MPP politicians, munyina the same. The left robs the back of the right, and the right robs the back of the left. Please do not let us get to that understanding. Why? Why? Mimi who you know? And even Mr. President, so I say, Attorney General, and when it's some the enemy is Attorney General, Empo, some person will continue with the so-called plea bargain. Munyane say, maybe $10 million. $10 million now, maybe based on the count, Sanki Ademiko Tumwa, Ebian Kamedam 20 years. But because me say, me person me plea bargain, my already said me $10 million amamo. Eti, my already na me $10 million amamunti. Me nyankom 20 years bio, mo better swab 2 years. That makes sense. So you would have taken your money and the guy would have still served a jail sentence. Now you're interested. Dear Cassia, I'm a crumb for a witch. But you don't tell me that somebody will steal my money for 8 years. The Mimisi Canaba Juma buy treasure bill. Yeah, the Nikotuma or Semaya plea bargain. Now with your principal never could the interest. I'll never fall for this law, Mr. President. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'll never fall for this law, Mr. President. So that area of plea bargain must be looked at. We shouldn't be deceived. Say, you bring your sika back. Sika no medema, it will not be of the same value as compared to the past. Because sika sometimes, in fact, most of the time, it depreciates in value with the passage of time. It depreciates in value. One Ghana cedi, near 10 years ago, and then one cedi intimate. Sika and Tessa Sase, which appreciate in value. $10 million will be 8 years ago. It will not be the same as today if the person pays and goes scot-free, Mr. President. I'm sorry. That plea bargain must be reviewed to include that, yes, we are ready to take the money, but we will reduce your sentence for you. It is a 10 years Nankabeko prisoner, you will serve 6 months. Or we can include, say, yes, pay the money, but we include a non-custodial sentence. It's just can we are for 6 months, you be more makola market. So can you imagine, say, we'll be to say Kenufriata and I give to your worry. And I do wine, and I chama won't to be. So we will play again. Yeah, Jessica, we are. No, baby, say KJT market. What they are saying, come say, many chairman won't to be. Many cromfona, me Jim Musika, say, Mamma, Koya, Manjano. No, Mamma, not KJT market for 6 months. That is proper plea bargain. That's all we bet Treska for where did you never Jeska near Tria, I'm telling you. And yes, Adia, Mr. Papa no so come no coach will be bored, you know. Yes, you have a plea bargain. Men are now fool, you back with trouble dinner be see a night. Muntimin yam raman in favor political class, nay here for dear, Mosem Rano Dabi. Yes, you have plea bargain, you know. Ye we are coqua, yes, Ramon Famenco too. Yabako Paco Quabesha night, your plea bargain. What kind of law is that? Yes, and Kwam. And no one question and I sanka yet here. Minim sort here LGBTQ plus. Question be and for LGBTQ plus. I was thinking say, but anyways, and you know the bit maybe sir questions. But Kwame no question. Na ko omofa department da benebeko. Oh. Sam George. It's on Nania bro. Only DSTV in community. But and the president in Suka Debi Maniyamide. Or see you dedicated 3.5 billion cedis for free SHS. And Kwame, Yamo John Dramani Mahama Abaso. Over guys said, and one thing about Mr. President is that, like, okay, criticizing now, a question what to bo abanifi. Instead, so be saying fa bo na to abo no the a bo no what to abafi is in the dine. Time when Mr. President a opposition and send over power. There were lots of Ghanaians and MPP guys. I can say. Ma yentu abane ma President Mahama because President Mahama ba obetwa free SHS mo kai. In the first place, a Akufo-Addo government implemented free SHS without a policy document. Mo function with there was no write-up or guiding principles for the establishment of free SHS. Free SHS no in wholesale and retail. Obi an copy, obi an mrefi. In past history, they say ni probably do ofie na dos sin days and kwada no be school akwako suande. As if say having no policy document attached was not enough. Under the elsewhere MPP administration, there was no budgetary allocation, so-called properly organized for free SHS. Who be so me say free SHS ominyeska free here. You want to one say a free oil field, but no you need direct allocation. Say this is what is earmarked for furnishing free SHS. All of a sudden, when the kunwa ya say on one pay free SHS, no be good free SHS no. He has dedicated source for the funding of free SHS. And yesterday I was happy to hear that no less than 3.5 billion has been allocated for free SHS. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you. And Semiti said, Obika said, John Dramani Mahama, per se, Ogu free SHS. I'll be shocked. You know why I'll be shocked? In 2015, John Dramani Mahama administration, that was John Dramani Mahama 1, Mulanchi free SHS. However, it was free day. Then fast forward to Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo. and nationalize free SHS across the country. In any case, you can your share free SHS as a Kwame Nkrumah. And this senior people Nkrumah to take credit. Kwame Nkrumah, he started free SHS in the 3 northern regions. Then fast forward to 2015, free day, Abaye. Then another Dankwa Akufo-Addo nationalized free SHS in Ghana. But I am there. So now there is a dedicated source of funding for free SHS. And now, Mr. President can say 3.5 billion has been allocated for free SHS. Again, Kwame. And now, dear Bakosua, Mr. President, say who kakra na efa Operation Recover All Loot. Let me dear, I just say be convincing me. And yes, sir, I will say this without fear. Say Operation Recover All Loot na atonzo. I just am catch them sentence. Because no, you see, one of the questions are Anka. You see, Mr. President, is this the kind of aura you promised? And is this how you intended delivering? Operation Recover All Loot, when end this for promising now is this what they are delivering? Because Operation Recover All Loot where they are tons more. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. Operation Recover All Loot. Senior na honorable Kunju to black Kwame Martin Pebune or my word Nathan Kofi Boachemo. Ora movie yes see the back document say 1,000 pages one yeah their accuracy say. And now who said President Kase Anna Attorney General na office of the Mr. President yet in what say but near Ghana for say as voice for the voiceless main country on the say we are tired of the press conferences from the Attorney General's department. We are tired of the press conferences from the office of the special prosecutor. And yes, sir, Mr. President, then your government and your party, person, let me say, and you no crack, send MP before you cry for. Because send you no crack MP before you cry for, and 8 months you've been able to prosecute somebody. Yes. And then you no crack. And then no political gimmick. When you know my Bruno be a Canadian or big cabbage no bika and I'm with the power. Send the politics Chroma they say where who will to meet a some not to him yaso. Now we watch a some no because if indeed so will sit 9 people before you cry for. Another press conferences see. Anna can offer any office of the special prosecutor than better trade. Very well. Wow. And then oh, butter trade. Mr. Dia, that's not obvious. Ghana politicians, well, me first partner, me to me politics, but me who say, Munu, what me and Yanumo? Ah, puto. What do you who are 3 years about? Near Shada Diaba, what I read in Tapu. Near Shada. Hey, Kwam, my fan here. Me not this were the areas are. Me person but you're more journalists for Nabaso. They asked very brilliant questions. And Mokos one year. Not yet President John Dramani Mahama crying. He's doing well. Nayan can't tell Nabu Amakofibwa. So Tiemia. One who said na and commander Kobai in Nasa and Kabashano so on your steady Ukruma. Utu Dakuneke. Mausimunya steady. They led them, Munya steady. Dr. Boa, I cannot boa, Munya steady. Because a child, a Sambe Shemoso. I know you guys are doing well. We will support you to succeed. Ma, Yenkia Homra. Na yeba. Na kwa misa na kama Ghana fonso can be. Yen come round. If their expectations were met. Very well. Okay, stay on after the break.
Imports but never brought those imports. We want to know what happened.
LED TV.
And if there was wrongdoing to sanction whoever it is. While we work to stabilize our economy, and improve the value of our currency. We've also laid the groundwork for a digital Ghana through strategic investments in science and technology and innovation through the 1 Million Coders program. These strides are not isolated. They are part of a clear, deliberate national reset that is restoring hope, creating opportunity, and ushering in an era of shared prosperity for all. Yes, our insistence on doing things the right way may afford those who have looted this country some temporary relief, but let me be clear, it will not grant them permanent escape. Across multiple fronts, active pursuits and prosecutions are well underway under the Operation Recover All the Loot. Over 200 cases are under active investigation, with about 80 people interrogated so far. Several prosecutions have begun, progressing steadily and remaining firmly on course. In the Republic versus Edubwan and 3 others, the state has submitted witness statements together with all other documents, and trial has commenced. And the first of 3 prosecution witnesses have been called and have been cross-examined by counsel for the accused person. With the SkyTrain case, for instance, the prosecutors have secured a trial date, as all preliminary matters have been concluded and the trial is set to commence. For the National Service Authority case, due to its expansive nature, charges have been drafted and will be filed as soon as the legal year begins against the following person: the Republic versus Osei Sibe, the Republic versus Eric Nyako, the Republic versus Gifty Owari. Also for the National Cathedral, we are awaiting a forensic audit from the Auditor General. Additionally, charges have been drafted and are ready for filing in the case of Republic versus Wuntumi and Akuntamaine. The Economic and Organized Crime Office, IOCO, is finalizing its report with respect to Exim Bank transactions. Dockets are in preparation for the buffer stock case and the drip equipment case. Investigations are ongoing into the African Cup of Nations case, the March Set case, and approximately 20 other cases currently. Let me be clear, every single case of corruption that needs to be investigated is being looked into. And once evidence is found to ground a prosecution, that will happen and happen swiftly. The Gold Board is formalizing Ghana's gold trade. As of today, gold trading is a reserve for only Ghanaians. This strategic move will help maximize national benefits, enhance transparency, and ensure that the wealth generated from our natural resources is reinvested in our communities and national development. Thank you very much. The first question is about the rise in the value of the city. We recognize a very steep appreciation in the value of the city in response to the reforms that we were carrying out. And for those of you who listened to me, there was one occasion where I said, people were asking whether it will go below 10. And I said, it is dropping, but it will find its true value. It was undervalued at 16, and it probably is overvalued at 10. But somewhere between there, we have the real value of the city. And so I believe that it is about stopping rapid depreciation of the currency. Almost every currency would realize either depreciation or appreciation in the course of a year. But when you have steep depreciation of about, like we had in 2024, 25% depreciation in the currency in the first half of the year, it makes planning difficult. And so, yes, Bank of Ghana has been intervening in the forex market, but they've withdrawn. And what happened was that because of the rapid appreciation in the value of the cedi, we saw an exponential increase in imports, because then people could buy cheaper dollars and so they could import more, which is a natural economic phenomenon. But on the other side, exporters are not happy because they get less cedis for what they export. And so every country tries to find out a balance where exporters are able to do good business and importers are not overburdened by high forex rates. Where that lies, I don't know. I'm not the central bank. But the CD is making an adjustment, and I believe that it will settle at a certain rate, and we will make sure that any depreciation that occurs in the value of the CD is within a margin of about 5% per annum. That is what we target. And so for now, there's still speculation. It's also coincided with a period where we saw a reduction of 50% in remittances, because citizens in the diaspora were taken aback by the rapid appreciation of the CD. And so if somebody was building a house, if he was going to send $100,000, it meant that he was losing a certain percentage of that 100,000. And most of them would decide to adopt a wait-and-see attitude and say, oh, no, as for CD, it's not possible that the CD can regain its value to that extent. By all means, it will go up again. So I'll hold back my remittance until the CD goes back up. So we saw a 50% reduction. But there were also some other factors. There were some money transfer companies that were collecting CDs abroad and not repatriating collecting dollars abroad and not repatriating the dollars. There were other which we're investigating. There were other cases where people applied through the commercial banks for foreign exchange to cover imports, and those monies are transferred to pay for imports, but the imports never came into Ghana. And we've studied a period of 4 years, and over the period of 4 years, about $42 billion was taken out of this country without the corresponding imports coming into the country. And so we started sanctioning some banks, and soon we'll start interrogating some individuals who ostensibly took money out against imports but never brought those imports. We want to know what happened and if there was wrongdoing to sanction whoever it is. While we work to stabilize our economy and improve the value of our currency, we must protect that currency, because a strong CD is good for all of us. But when that happens, some people try to take advantage of it. And I think that we should all condemn anything like that. I've been reluctant to implement a state of emergency in the galamsey fight because we've not exhausted the powers we even have without a state of emergency. We have the opportunity to arrest anybody, to confiscate any such thing. There are laws for forest protection and all that give us enough powers to be able to act. Implementing a state of emergency might sound nice, but it should be the last extreme, the last resort. So for now, let's do a ship until you have gotten a permit. In the meantime, a lot of excavators have arrived at the port. And recently, somebody said they were being released at midnight to their owners and things. That's not true. What happens was there were so many that they had occupied a huge area of the port and congested the port. And so we found the land near Shy Hills, near the military installation. And the Field Engineers Regiment and others have been given charge to move the excavators from the port to that area so that they can free up space in the port. And they do that in the night because of traffic in the daytime. So in the night, they have the payloaders moving the excavators out of the port to the designated areas where they are supposed to be held. And before any of those excavators is released, they must be tracked. They must have a tracker on them. They must be registered by the owner of the excavator. And we must know the purpose for which the excavator has been imported. Because the construction industry also imports excavators. And so you cannot put a blanket ban on importation of excavators just because you think that every excavator is going to go into the illegal mining industry. Even the big mining companies that have licenses import excavators. And so we want to know who is importing the excavators, who it is going to. We want to be able to put a tracker on it and be able to trace that excavator wherever it is in the country. With regards to excavators, we are enforcing the law that you must get the permit before the excavator is put on a ship. That is what the law has been, but it was not followed. And so they let the excavator land before they come and ask the Ministry of Transport for a permit. And so we've informed all the dealers that you cannot load an excavator onto a ship until you have gotten a permit. In the meantime, a lot of excavators have arrived at the port. And recently, somebody said they were being released at midnight to their owners and things. That's not true. What happens was there were so many that they had occupied a huge area of the port and congested the port. And so we found the land near Shy Hills, near the military installation. And the Field Engineers Regiment and others have been given charge to move the excavators from the port to that area so that they can free up space in the port. And they do that in the night because of traffic in the daytime. So in the night, they have the payloaders moving the excavators out of the port to the designated areas where they are supposed to be held. And before any of those excavators is released, they must be tracked, they must have a tracker on them, they must be registered by the owner of the excavator, and we must know the purpose for which the excavator has been imported. Because the construction industry also imports excavators, and so you cannot put a blanket ban on importation of excavators just because you think that every excavator is going to go into the illegal mining industry. Even the big mining companies that have licenses import excavators. And so we want to know who is importing the excavators, who it is going to. We want to be able to put a tracker on it and be able to trace that excavator wherever it is in the country. With regards to excavators, we are enforcing the law that you must get the permit before the excavator is put on a ship. That is what the law has been, but it was not followed. And so they let the excavator land before they come and ask the Ministry of Transport for a permit. And so we've informed all the dealers that you cannot load an excavator onto a ship until you have gotten a permit. In the meantime, a lot of excavators have arrived at the port. And recently, somebody said they were being released at midnight to their owners and things. That's not true. What happens was there were so many that they had occupied a huge area of the port and congested the port. And so we found the land near Shy Hills, near the military installation. And the Field Engineers Regiment and others have been given charge to move the excavators from the port to that area so that they can free up space in the port. And they do that in the night because of traffic in the daytime. So in the night, they have the payloaders moving the excavators out of the port to the designated areas where they are supposed to be held. And before any of those excavators is released, they must be tracked, they must have a tracker on them, they must be registered by the owner of the excavator, and we must know the purpose for which the excavator has been imported. Because the construction industry also imports excavators, and so you cannot put a blanket ban on importation of excavators just because you think that every excavator is going to go into the illegal mining industry. Even the big mining companies that have licenses import excavators.
PENDREAM TV now, so far so good. Say open online portal e Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.